So today, what I want to do is I want to go over how to identify the beast. Everybody wants to say the Antichrist, but that is a misnomer. That is that the term itself, Antichrist, is deception, because when you read Antichrist in the New Testament, it actually means anti-Messiah. There is a difference, because Christ is a term for, it is a title for a pagan deity that goes all the way back to Mithraism, which is paganism. So what I want to do is go to Revelation 13, and let's read this carefully. I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now we know that the 7 heads, they are the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, and the Grecian Empire. The 10 horns are the 10 horns of Europe. Let's continue. And upon his horns 10 crowns, which means these 10 crowns represent 10 kingdoms. And indeed, those same kingdoms exist to this day, even though most of them are now constitutional monarchies or something like that. One in particular, like France, the kingdom is no longer has any role in the government, but the royal line still exists. And upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. The leopard was the Grecian Empire. So it took in the Grecian Empire. I'll go over, show you a map in just a minute. His feet were as the feet of a bear. That would be the Medo-Persian Empire. And his mouth as the mouth of a lion, the mouth like the Babylonian Empire. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Now, before we go into verse 3, let's go to the map of a Roman Empire. It's on Google. And what you want to do is Google Roman Empire at its greatest extent. And what you will see is indeed exactly as Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2 describes the Roman Empire. It takes in the old Babylonian Empire. It takes in the entirety of the Grecian Empire. It takes in also most of, if not all of, the Persian Empire. Okay. But at least it takes in Persia. Alright? And then on top of that, all the 10 toes in Europe. It has Hispania, which is Portugal and Spain. It has Britannia, which is jolly old England. Did not take in Scotland and Hibernia, which is Ireland at the time, although the Roman Empire did grab it later. Parts of Germanic portions, Dacia, Moesia, all of Greece, Asia Minor, Syria, Judea, Egypt, Libya, all of North Africa, Mauritania, etc. So, that is the Roman Empire at its greatest. And so, when you read Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2, this describes the Roman Empire. Now, I saw one of his heads, that is of the 10, as it were wounded to death. Now, so we're going to get to this in a minute here too. Wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, let us go to, I will continue because this all comes together. They worshiped the beast, saying, "Who's like unto the beast?" Or they obeyed the beast. They saluted the beast because they could not defeat him. The word worship and salute and obeisance and all that is nearly the same meaning. Nearly. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months to do what? To open his mouth and blaspheme against Jehovah, and to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and those that dwell with him, that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, which are the Jews, the holy people, and to overcome them and power. Okay, for 42 months. So that was during the time when Nero was Caesar. Okay? And I'll continue to the end of this particular portion concerning the first beast. And it was given him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and they did at 67 AD to 70 AD. And power was given him over all kindred tongues and nations, and that happened. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity shall go into captivity. So Rome, this great beast that I just described for you using the map, is all going to go into captivity because they led the Jews into captivity. Think about that for a minute, okay? This is the patience and the faith of the saints, the Jews, the holy people, the Hagios. Now, let me read you a little thing about Nero, which is very interesting. Pseudo Nero. Now, I'm not going to, first of all, before I get started, this points out that there were many impostors after Nero committed suicide. I don't believe this beast that it's talking about in Revelation 13 verses 1 and 2 is talking about a particular person. It is talking about the Roman Empire. Okay, just so we get that out of the way. After Nero committed suicide near the villa of his freedman Theon in June of 68 AD. So right after Nero ordered Vespasian and Titus to take Jerusalem, Nero committed suicide. He received a deadly wound, not of somebody else, but of himself. Now, if you go to verse 3, and I saw one of his heads, as it were wounded to death. So it was dead. It died. It was killed. Doesn't say who killed him. It just says he was killed. It's not saying that he almost killed him. That's what it says. This is, as it were, wounded to death. So he died. But his deadly wound was healed. The kingdom regained power. So the kingdom suffered a wound because its king died. He committed suicide. Now, what happened next was, in that particular year, when Nero killed himself, There was an internal struggle for power. For a whole year, there were 4 Caesars. Nobody knew who was in charge. That particular head did receive a deadly wound, wounded to the death, but it regained power, and its deadly wound was healed under Vespasian. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this where it says pseudo Nero, and you can see why many people thought that Nero was this first beast. Well, Nero, he was the king of the first beast. We need to understand that it's really talking about the kingdom. Now, the next beast, after that, it is talking about a lineage of people, persons. After Emperor Nero committed suicide near the villa of his freedman Phaon in June of 68 AD, various Nero impostors appeared between the autumn of 69 AD and the reign of Emperor Domitian. Most scholars set the number of Nero's impostors to 2 or 3, although St. Augustine wrote of the popularity of the belief that Nero would return in his day, known as the Nero Redivivus legend. In addition to his 3 documented Nero, or to the 3 documented Nero, pseudo-Neros, Suetonius refers to imperial edicts forged in the dead Nero's name that encouraged his followers and promised his imminent return to avenge himself on his enemies. Belief in Nero's survival may be attributed in part to the obscure location of his death, although according to Suetonius, Galbus, Friedman, Islus saw the dead emperor's body and reported back to his master. Nero was also denied the lavish burial that was accorded to popular emperors and members of the imperial family, which may have left those plebeians who loved him dissatisfied and suspicious. Furthermore, he was not buried in the mausoleum of Augustus with the other Julio-Claudius emperors, but in a tomb in the Pincian Hill at the family burial place of Domitii Henobarbi. The post-mortem popularity of Nero among the Roman plebeians inspired them to lay flowers at his tomb. Another possible source of inspiration for those who impersonated Nero was the circulation of prophecies that predicted he would regain his kingdom in the east. One version places his resurgence at Jerusalem. These prophecies had been tied to Nero's natal chart, which had been interpreted as pointing to a loss of his patrimony and his recovery in the east. Tacitus may have been referring to such prophecies in veiled language when he wrote of the rumors that circulated around Nero after his death, which contributed to the belief that he had survived. The return of Nero may have inspired the book of the Revelation when he wrote about the eschatological opponent called the Beast, which is mortally wounded and then miraculously healed. The number of the beast, which is obviously, it's not 666, folks, or 616, depending on the manuscript, had been identified by some of the numerical value of the letters of Nero's name. Nero also appears more explicitly in this role in the Ascension of Isaiah and some of the books of the Sibylline prophecies. Owing to these prophecies and others, Nero was long thought to be the Antichrist. And as I said, the term Antichrist is a misnomer. It is incorrect. Due to short-lived success of Nero impostors and Nero's incorporation into eschatological literature, the belief in Nero's imminent return lasted for centuries. And so it lists first imposter, the second imposter, and the third imposter. And the folks, the thing about the matter is, and this led a lot of people on a wild goose chase. The kingdom itself was the one. The head, the kingdom, suffered a deadly wound through Nero, but Nero never came back from the dead. So, but the kingdom did. Nero's kingdom did come back to life under Vespasian. Vespasian, then his son, who destroyed Jerusalem, who was given power to destroy Jerusalem for 42 months. And this is how you answer the deadly wound being healed. Okay? I hope that I've made this clear. Because ultimately it was Titus the Roman general, who's Vespasian's son. Vespasian reconstituted the kingdom of Nero. He took power and took charge. When Vespasian died, it became a dynasty. Titus, his son, the one who destroyed Jerusalem for 42 months, became Caesar. Again, I say, I hope that explains the beast which had a deadly wound, but the deadly wound was healed. So, here comes another beast. Verse 11. Coming out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now, I've often wondered what the 2 horns like a lamb means, but then it says in verse 12, he exercises all of the power of the first beast before him. It finally occurred to me what this means is this. He sits in the seat of the Caesars. When it says all of the power of the first beast, that means all of the power of the first beast. So the first beast is described as the Caesars, all the way from the first Caesar to the last Caesar. And then here comes Constantine, and he begins a new lineage of rulers who call themselves priests, prophets, whatever you want to call them. But they sit in the seat of the Caesars, at all the same power of the first beast. And it came out of one of the heads, one of the 10 heads. And as Daniel would describe it, it became an 11th head. But it came out of one of the 10 heads, and one of the 10 heads was in Italy. Okay. Exercise all of the power of the first beast before him, and caused the land and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, or to worship the seat of the beast. It's probably how it should be more aptly described. To worship Rome, essentially, or to obey Rome. Still Rome. Now this second beast continues all the way to the end, and some of the things that we have seen already that he has done, and some of the things we probably have yet to see. But we all need to read this very carefully, and he does great wonders, so that he makes fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Now, you could theoretically say that under his command, and it was, and I don't care what the Catholics say, first of all, Mussolini put that man at the Vatican back in power. And Mussolini was partner Actually, for a while, Hitler was junior partner of Mussolini. They were both Catholics, so they were both were under the direction of the man at the Vatican. So essentially, under with Mussolini and Hitler under his power, this particular verse 13, he does great wonders so that he makes fire to come down from heaven. And it did from out of the sky. This word heaven means Uranus, the sky. Okay? Now, on the earth and the sight of men, and deceive them that dwell on the earth, by the means of those signs which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. As I said before, that we probably have not yet seen all the signs of this last beast until the very end. And saying to them, now he deceives them by saying that they should make an image of the beast? No. It's not what it says. It says make an image to the beast. So they made an image. And this image began with Leonardo da Vinci painting an image of the son of the man at the Vatican. Made him look like Zeus. Zeus is Satan. And it also looks like Tammuz. Made an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. Made an image to Rome. Made Rome, in other words, made an image that you could see for Rome. He had power to give life unto the image that was made for Rome. It's not an image of Rome. It's not an image of anything but that image that is in every one of these houses of worship. Okay? That the image should both speak and cause that as many would not have, as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, or the image made to the beast should be killed. Now, in the last days when Messiah, Israel's Messiah, shows himself, and much of the world, a lot of the world will call him the Antichrist, the two witnesses, Moses, that are like Moses and Elijah. Okay? What was Moses given the power to do? Well, first of all, there was Jannes and Jambres. Moses' rod turned into a serpent. And then Jannes and Jambres made their rods turn into a serpent. So, what we're seeing here is when the two witnesses are given power, then Satan is going to give this one with the two heads, two horns on his head like a lamb, and speaks as a dragon, is going to give him powers, much like he gave Jannes and Jambres powers. So I figure that when the two witnesses rise, that is when this beast, this final beast, is going to be given certain lying, they already do lying wonders, okay? But they're going to be given more power to do signs and wonders, this beast. And will deceive his followers with those signs. And he also would cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that, folks, that has gone on for centuries. And it will go on to the very end. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, an emblem, a sign in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, people think that the word "in" on here is actually a chip, but it's not. The word is epi. It means upon. It means on the surface. 1909, look it up in the Greek. And this sign, this emblem, this mark is received on these people's foreheads on Ash Wednesday. Now, a lot of people are going to be offended by this. Well, face the truth. So how do they have the sign in their hand or on their hand? Well, they make it with their hand, with their right hand. It says right hand. And what do they do with their right hand? They make the sign of that what they put on their foreheads. It is a mark. It is an emblem. The word mark, it's charagma. Okay? That is 5480. Now, charagma means a lot of things, but one of them is a sign. Hand signals. Folks, sculpture, a stamp, a sign. Take your pick. But what happens is today people try to say it is a stamp or an engraving. No, it doesn't have to be. All it has to be is a sign, like sign language. And interestingly enough, well, anyway, I will continue. Here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is not 666. Okay? Now, the problem with this it is the first one is chai or chi, however you want to say it, or ki. Now, in the Greek language, I believe the first mark was ancient. It was an ancient Greek, and the second two were later Greek. I do not believe you can change I think you have to stick with one or the other. If you're going to start with ancient, you have to stick with it. And this is partly the reason why they say, well, it could be, it's 616. The number, the numeral, the mark and the number is in the first sign, X. And it is also the sign for the old Mithra Cresto, the old Mithra pagan title Cresto. And therein lies the rub. Therein lies the answer. So, and now the other thing is too, if you go to 5516, what you will see is the original word. The transliteration is CHXS. And the original word, there's two or the three letters or numerals. They are all at the Vatican. You can see them at the Vatican, the signs. But they're also on the Muslim Bismillah. I've talked about this before. I didn't understand this as much as back then as I do now. But they both carry this mark and set of marks, which is what John saw. So essentially, the Muslims and the Christians today worship the same false god. And indeed, the Roman Empire, in its height, took in much of what is Christianity today and much of what is the Muslims today. Please do not be deceived. It is unfortunate today that the Christians and the Muslims worship the same false god. They carry the same signs.